Let's see. Okay, cool. Recording started. But yeah, so I just want to know more about you. So like Christine's told me a little bit, but I'd like to know, your name, where you live, just like a small brief introduction.
Okay, so my name is Wilma Thompson, and I live in London, Kentucky. That's where I'm from. I was born and raised in a small town. I am currently 43 years old. I've been married for 23 years, and I have two daughters. Shelby is my oldest. She's 21, and my youngest is Abby, and she is 20. I'm sorry, she's 16.
Okay, so wow, 23 years. That's been a while.
It has been half my life.
Right. So have you lived in Kentucky for long?
I've lived in Kentucky my whole life.
Okay, so
the same city.
The same city. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. So how did you like learn about Homeward Bound? Like what was your story with us?
Okay, so I guess Christine didn't tell you that part. So I assume you know that I'm a recovering addict, and my drug of choice was opiates. So at the current time, I worked for a doctor's office. I worked for Baptist Health of Corbin, and I was the office manager. And I started forging prescriptions to obtain my drugs. I had had a surgery prior and got addicted to drugs and all that. So the day came that I got caught. A prescription did not go through at CVS pharmacy, and so I kind of freaked out. I was scared. I was mad. I was every emotion that you can be. So I went to the nearest airport, which is about an hour drive from London, and a flight just so happened to be going out to Dallas. So I paid for the flight, and I ended up in Dallas. So when I landed in Dallas, I was, like I said, scared, all those emotions, but I had started Googling places. And the first place that I Googled or that came up was Green Oaks. I think that's the name of it. That's where I went first. And they had lost their funding for opiates. So I ended up staying the night there. The next day, I ended up taking an Uber over to Homeward Bound. They're on University Boulevard.
Yeah.
And they had just moved in, like maybe, I'm wanting to say it hadn't been maybe a month or 2 months. It hadn't been at that facility very long. And you had only detoxed because of the transition of moving in, only detoxed on Mondays and Tuesdays. And this was on a Friday morning. And so I was freaked out because I was thinking, what am I going to do for the rest of the weekend? Because I got, where I got caught, I didn't have any pills. So I was getting low on pills. I was, 1,000 of miles from home, literally. And so I was just freaked out. So Samantha, I don't know if she still works at Homeward Bound, but she was the last time I talked to Christine, she was there, but this is before I went to prison. So I don't know if she's still there or not, but Samantha saw me, and she came out and she talked with me, and she told me that she had a plan. She would take me to Parkland, to the hospital, where I would, go to the ER and try to get some medicines for the weekend. She saved a room at not Good Samaritan, at the homeless shelter. I have forgot the name of that homeless shelter.
That's okay.
Anyway, I stayed there. I went to the hospital. Samantha took me to the hospital, went to the hospital. I went through the ER, got more medicines to last. And then Samantha picked me up on Monday morning. And then that's how I ended up at Homeward Bound.
Oh, wow. What year was this?
This was 2018.
2018. Okay. And why, you may have already mentioned this, why did you choose to come to Dallas, like so far away from home? Was there nothing else closer by?
There was not. Here in Kentucky, all we have, now we have a little bit more than what we did then, but all we have here is we have outpatient facilities. So you go to an outpatient facility and they will switch you over to Suboxone, methadone, whatever that they have, they will switch you over to. There was no place for me to go and actually detox. And I didn't want to switch over to another. I wanted to be clean because I knew I was going to prison. And I had enough sense to know that I wouldn't be able to take those drugs to prison with me, meaning like the Suboxone or the methadone. So I wanted someplace that I could actually go in and detox and get the help that I needed, not only just a detox, but get the resources that I needed to remain clean.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And how did you know you were going to prison?
Well, I had forged not thousands, I had forged hundreds of prescriptions. So, I mean, I had enough sense to know that, it was going to get caught up. I mean, I was caught and, I was going to prison. There was no way around that. It was just a matter of time.
Yeah. Okay. So you finished or you went into recovery at Homeward Bound. How long were you in Dallas for then?
So I was in Dallas for about 30 days. I did the 7-day detox, and then I transitioned over into the 30-day program. I left a little bit early than the 30 days, like the 30-day program, because I didn't need like housing. I didn't need help with any, like getting your driver's license back. I didn't need any help with that, like some of the ladies, need help, because I had that here in Kentucky. So I left a little bit. It was right under the 30-day mark.
Right. And what was it like, especially since you were so far from home? And I'm guessing you still had kids and a family back here. Did they visit?
No. I guess one thing, a big piece to this is my family had no idea I was a drug addict. My family had no idea that I was on drugs, that I was writing prescriptions. So the day that I got caught is the day that I also told my family. I told my husband. I sent an email to my husband before I boarded the plane. And I sent an email to him telling him what I had done, where the prescriptions was. And then he was left with a big burden of telling our 2 children. And at that time, they were like 13 and 12 and 16.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, no, there was no, they didn't visit. It was too far. I had left us in horrible finances. So there wasn't, money or, everyone was devastated. So there was no visiting, and that was fine because I think we all needed that break. I needed the break it wasn't a break for me, but I needed to learn what I had did, and I needed to learn to take responsibility for what I did and get clean. And then they needed time to get over that shock of what I had left, here with.
And if you don't mind me asking, how did your addiction start?
So my addiction started in 2014. I was diagnosed with a PE, a clot in the lung, and I was diagnosed with a DVT, a clot in the leg. At the same time, I had some female issues going on, and I was in a lot of pain from the female issues, and then I was in pain from the blood clots. So that kind of led to, I had major surgery. I had a complete hysterectomy, and that led to being on pain pills.
I see. And that was in 2014. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, wow. And how was your experience like at Homeward Bound?
I had a really good experience. Everyone was nice and friendly. They were tough, but I needed tough. If one thing I learned while I was there, and it's the one thing that helped me all throughout the process, was to take responsibility for what I had done. I didn't go into a lot of detail when they asked, where I got the pills or what I was taking, where I got it. I just told them, I had done illegal things to get the drugs. And they give you resources for staying clean and what you need to do, and what to do when this happens. And you're not just a number. You don't go in and out. You don't go in to get a refill of something and go right back out. You have resources that they give you to help you with your addiction. And I learned a lot about addiction there. I knew I was addicted. I liked the pills. I had a love like no other for those pills. And, I always felt like there was something wrong because I felt like that. But, once they explained the addiction and you're going through that, they were very helpful.
Yeah. What did they explain?
They just explain how addiction is a disease and, how it works. and how, the stages that you go through with addiction and with recovery and with detox. So they were really helpful with explaining the process. Every process that I was in, they had a way of explaining the process.
Right. No, I've actually have from the other people I've interviewed, they have mentioned how like changing just the narrative around what addiction is for them, not a thing of willpower. It's there's a science behind it that really helped them in their recovery. So I'm sort of getting the same sense from you.
Yeah. And, I worked the medical field for, I don't know, 15, 16 years. And, I knew what I was doing and I saw the signs that I was going through, but I liked how those pills made me feel. And that's something there that they were able to explain, like why you have a love for these pills and why, why addiction happens and how it happens and all that.
So what did you do in the medical field?
I was an office manager for a GI clinic.
Nice. And what do you do? Yeah. Sorry. Continue.
Oh, no, I was just saying, so I was like, I had access to the prescription pads.
Right, that makes sense. And what do you do now?
Now I work for a law firm and I'm a legal assistant. So now I help others in the same situation that I was in.
Oh, God.
So I help others, that are going through not necessarily addiction, but just going through the legal process.
Yeah. I'd also just interested to know more, how you mentioned that your addiction started after being prescribed those pills. Like, how do you feel about the system right now? Like, what kind of changes do you think are really necessary? Have you thought about that?
Are you talking about the system as in the way they prescribe medication?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is flaws. But I knew what I was doing. I knew how to, get those pills. So, I blame some of that on myself. Because, like I said, I took advantage of the position that I had. But as far as, I think they are overprescribed. And I don't think that there is a lot of education that there should be on the pills. That was one thing, I remember back when I was prescribed the pills, I wasn't, told, okay, you could get addicted to these or all that. I don't know if the physicians assumed that I knew that because I worked in the medical field or if it was just something that they didn't do. I don't know.
Yeah, that's sounds like something that should be explained pretty well to anyone. Yeah. No, so wonderful story. And I'm just still kind of in shock at how Kentucky doesn't have like a detox, like inpatient facility like Texas does. Or now I'm guessing, is it better now?
It's a little bit better now. But no, there's no, I had actually called a couple of places, before I was caught, because I knew I had a problem, but, I was scared. And then I loved the pills. So the places that I called, though, they did not, it was all outpatient.
Yeah. So after you were done with the 30-day program in Homeward Bound, is that after, was it after that you went to prison?
So that was in 2018. I finished the program in June of 2018. So I came home. To my husband and kids. And so I just thought it would be a matter of days before I would be caught, because while I was actually, my sobriety date is the date that the local city police come to our house and had a warrant and searched and got all the prescription pads. So I thought it would happen fairly quickly. So I got home in June of 2018. August of 2018, the FBI knocked on my door. And that's when I realized that my case had went federal. So I assumed again that it would just be a few months and they would be back to get me. I didn't realize at the time the long process that there is. So that was August of 2018. So September happened, October happened, November happened, and nothing happened. So I decided to go back to work. I knew I would never work in the medical field because I knew from my sobriety I couldn't. I didn't really have to change people, places, and things. My things was work. So I knew I could not go back to work where I did before because that would be too tempting. So I started working at an attorney's office. And nobody knew, they knew I was a recovering addict, but nobody knew about this legal issue because the attorney I talked with said, we needed to keep it quiet. We needed to wait until it happened, not be talking about it. So besides family, like I'm not talking about family, like my kids and my husband, it was all kept quiet. So I didn't realize though, in this time that I was waiting, I was rebuilding my marriage and I was rebuilding my relationship with my kids. So I got to see my daughter turn 18, the one that's 21 now. I got to go to her graduation. So I got to see my one that's 16, got to see her turn 13. So we've come up on a year sobriety of May of 2019 and nothing. I knew they were coming. It was just a matter of when. And so we get through summer, we get through the fall, and November the 25th of 2019, the FBI came back to get me. So it was 18 months later, they came back. I was arrested that day. I couldn't actually, the federal system is a little bit different than your state system. So the judge was supposed to see me that day and he had an emergency and couldn't. So I ended up going to jail for the night. And then the next day I went for my arraignment and they agreed, since I had been clean all this time, been through recovery, I was allowed out. So that was that was November of 19. And then COVID started in the spring. Well, I guess it really wasn't spring, like the winter of that time. So my sentencing kept getting pushed back a little bit. Finally, I was sentenced in June of 2020. I was looking at anywhere from 3 to 5 years is where I fell out on the sentencing chart. And the judge issued a variance and gave me 18 months. So I went to prison September the 9th of 2020. And then I came home August the 23rd of 21. So I was there almost a year. The rest of my time from August to December, I did on home incarceration.
Okay, I understand. Oh, wow, that's quite the timeline. For you, what was it like, waiting for that long, not knowing when they would come?
It is pure torture. Because for me, I knew I deserved to go to prison. I had done some terrible things. So for me, it was torture. So I knew in that wait, that's all I could do was wait. So when they were here, I wasn't one of these that had a horrible experience with FBI. They didn't, crash in. There was not police surrounding. It was a very pleasant experience. So the day that they came, I was like, where have you been? I have been waiting for you guys to come back for a year and a half. So that wait is torture. If you can stay sober during that wait, I'm bound to determine that you can stay sober anytime because the wait is torture.
Yeah, that's what I imagine. I was like, and you stayed sober throughout that and in prison, right? That must not have been easy either.
I guess it's how you look at it. I didn't see going to prison as the worst thing that could happen. I just saw that I was meant to go. I did a terrible thing and, I needed to go. It was my punishment. And it's what you make of it. You can either do prison or let prison do you. And I had worked too hard in my recovery and in building back everything to let prison do me. So it's just kind of however you make. It's not easy, but it's just, I had family support and we had a system going of how we communicated and, visits and stuff. And I kept, it's just 18 months, which equaled out to a year or something because of the rest of the time I got to do on home incarceration. So you can get through it.
Right. No, thank you.
You focus on God and not the storm is what I always would tell the ladies. Because you focus on that, don't focus on the storm.
Thank you for sharing that. No, that's that's very good advice. So I want you to describe the day when you were at the airport trying to find a flight, any flight, and trying to get somewhere. What was that day like?
Oh goodness, it was crazy. I think I had every emotion that you could have. I was scared. I was mad. I think at that time I was probably more mad. I was mad that I got caught. Um, and I was scared. And then it still had not hit me what I had done at that point. The day that it hit me, I don't know if you want me to go ahead and explain this or wait till you ask or whatever, but the day that it hit me was I went into detox on Monday. And on Friday is when I transitioned. Friday or Saturday is when I transitioned over. But I hadn't been outside. And I had went outside just to get some fresh air. And when I went outside, I'm not sure what happened. I don't know what happened, but I'm so thankful that I was there when it happened. But it's like everything hit me. Everything hit me, what I had done to my family, what I had done to the doctor that I worked for, what I had done, just what I had done. It's like then, because at that time, I was 4 or 5 days sober. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I mean, I just cried because I was like, and I can't remember all the text names that were there. And, they were like, that's how they start telling you it's part of the process. And, it's like, I need to call home that day because I said, I need to tell my family not to give up on me. And, they related everything back to where I'd had a hysterectomy and I had a history of blood clots, that I couldn't do hormone replacement. So they related a lot of the, I guess, unusual mom wife things I was doing. They related to me from having the surgery and still recovering from that. And in reality, it was the drugs.
Yeah. Well, okay. No, that was great. I was just lost in the way you were telling it. It was that day when it hit. I guess that was the day when you finally felt, I would say, remorse is what you felt.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that's, the guilt is something that it's a process. And that's, kind of what they explained at Homeward Bound is, the guilt is a process. And I'm still processing that. I still have good days and I still have bad days with that because, I put my family through a lot. Mm-hmm. Not only did I put them through, I mean, they've, I feel like I've sentenced my family to a life sentence because for the rest of their life, they have to deal with the fact that their mom, their wife is a recovering drug addict. And, that can be hard on the family. So that guilt is real.
Mm-hmm. How do you feel now that you've been through all of that and where you are today? How do you feel about it?
I'm a firm believer that everything happens for a reason. And I really believe that God gave me this journey for a reason. And I don't know if it's to help others. I'm not really sure on that. I'm still processing that, but I'm okay. I have made amends with myself. I have made amends with, I actually was able to reach out to the doctor before I went to prison and make amends with him. I've made amends with the community, of course, with my family, friends. So I'm in a good place. Right now, there's times that I'm thinking, is this real? Is this really over? I'm still on probation, but I'm like, is this really over? Because it's been going on for so long. So I'm good. Recovery's hard. I wish that I could sit here and say I never think about drugs. I would be lying. But I know what to do when those thoughts occur because that's some of the things that I learned at Homeward Bound.
Yeah. What are some of the kinds of things you do when it is getting hard? Like what helps you stay in recovery?
So I like to listen to music. That really helps. I like to cook. I like to stay busy in the kitchen. Just simply talking. I know I can reach out to my husband if it's a bad day. And you form a support system. And that's one of the things that they talk at Homeward Bound in the classes that I would do during the day is they form, a support, they talk about you forming a support system when you get home, people that you can reach out to 24/7 that can help you in your recovery. And, I feel like I have a good tribe. I have a good support system. I have people that I can reach out and I have people that I think if they're like, wait a minute, she seems to be acting kind of funny, or she seems, that will call me out. Because like I said, I wish I could say I would never go down that road. I mean, I'll do everything in my power not to go down that road because I know what that road is like. But you have to have that support system.
Right. And you said now you work as a legal assistant in an office where you can help others who are going through somewhat of the same thing. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So I actually work for my attorney. Yeah. So I actually work for him. Thankfully, he believes in second chances, and he got to know me during that time frame, and he got to see every stage of that time frame. And when I'm saying time frame, I'm talking about from November of 2019 until I went to prison. So he got to see, and he knows my biggest thing is take responsibility for what you did. I could have blame the drugs, I could have done, but I had to take responsibility. So let me not get off on that tangent about taking responsibility. But he is a criminal defense attorney. So we do see, cases that come in that are, going through, I wouldn't say the same thing I'm going through, but they're going through some type of legal process. And so, there's days that you see people or you're talking to people and they're like, I can't go through this. I can't. And I don't share my story with them just because I don't want them to feel uncomfortable or to feel, but, I always let them know it's, you're going to get through it. So.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you're at a place now that you're able to help others who may be in like a similar, if not the same, but a similar situation. Right. But what do you look forward to each day?
Just a new day. A new day. I try my best not to complain when it's a crazy day because I remember sitting in prison and missing those crazy days. So I try not to complain about the crazy days, but just a new day in general, because you never know what that day is going to hold.
Is there anything about Homeward Bound that stood out to you, like in your experience? Was there a specific interaction that you had that may have been very impactful for you?
I think I cannot remember. I'm usually good with names, but I can't remember the lady. It was in a class that she was doing, and I don't think she was a recovering addict. I think her husband was a recovering addict, and she was just sharing a little bit of her experience with building relationships. And I knew, excuse me, I knew coming home I had my work cut out for me because I had devastated. I mean, I couldn't imagine if the tables were turned. So I knew I had my work cut out for me, but she was talking and she explained, with her husband that, there was this huge wall that was up, but each day she felt like she could take a piece of the brick and move it to the side because he would show her that he was dedicated to his recovery and that he was dedicated to, being sober. And it just really hit with me. And I was like, if they don't, and meaning they as in my husband and my kids, if they don't see me put the work in, if I go home and I start complaining, well, I never would have done this if it hadn't have been for that one prescription, knowing that was a lie. I knew that if I didn't show them that I was serious about my recovery and serious about what my crime, what that would lead to, then I knew that I could maybe, that wall would tear down, and that wall did. It takes time. It's not something that happens overnight. And it's what I often tell people. We didn't just wake up today and say, today's the day that we're going to become a drug addict. It happens over the course of time. And building those relationships, we don't just wake up today and that relationship is repaired. It happens over the course of time.
Oh, that's incredible. I'm really happy that it did tear down for you, and just everything you've said is very impactful. So what does your husband do, and what do your daughters do now that they're actually adults, right? Yeah.
Well, my 21-year-old is in college. She is going to school to be a teacher. And then my 16-year-old, she's still in high school. So
yeah, so you've actually done such a great job at like explaining just telling your story. but I would just ask you, like, if you could use a phrase or a word to describe Homeward Bound, what it would it be?
Yes. A phrase or a word?
Yeah,
Oh,
just anything.
you've really caught me on this.
I end off every interview by asking people this. It helps.
I think the word that would come to my mind is freedom. I do know that when I walked through those doors, I felt hopeless. And when I walked out, I was hopeful. I think that the biggest thing that I got from them, not aside from recovery and all that, was, again, it was taking responsibility for what I had done. Because there was some people, I was in rehab with, that this was their last stop before prison. And, I'm sitting there thinking, oh, this is my stop before prison, So, but yeah, I can't say enough good things about Homeward Bound.
Thank you so much, Wilma. I'm so grateful for you and like for you sharing your story. Is there anything you'd like to add?
I don't think so. I know I have talked with Christine about me and my family coming to Texas this spring, actually into summer. So my sobriety date is May 21st. So we're hoping that we can make it. We will leave here on the 19th of May, and say the 19th and 20th and 21st. So come back on the 22nd. So
yeah, I guess that actually another question occurred to me while you were talking about your family. Like, how have your daughters dealt with everything?
It's been a process for them. It's been a process for everyone. And my youngest woman was very young, right there at the 12. So it's been a process. I think they've really matured during this. And I think they have really grown spiritually, and they've had to deal with stuff that kids their age shouldn't have to deal with. But I think it, has helped them to, help others and have a better, I wouldn't say better, but a different view on what drugs can do to a family.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And from your conversation, it seems like you guys are a very spiritual family.
Yes. Yeah, we wouldn't have made it this far without God by our side.
I know, I feel the same way. But all right, no, thank you so much. I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Oh, no, you're
fine. But yeah, no, you basically covered all the questions I had. And thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. And when you come to Texas in May, I'd love to see you in person.
Yes, yeah, I want to see everyone. So yeah. I'll keep up with Christine updated and let everyone know before when we finally narrow it down.
Absolutely. And let Christine know, and you'll be surprised. Like, we actually are doing so many cool things now. Like, we've opened up. Let me just end this recording.